Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the City Council chambers. Hope everyone had a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. We hit the ground running again. Today's date is Tuesday, December 26, 2023. The time is 5:30 p.m. Our City Administrator, Britzy Bennis, is out ill today, and so we'll try to cover the entire meeting without her wise input, so we'll get through that, hopefully. Pam, would you please take the roll call?
Motley.
Here.
Friedlieb.
Here.
Paulson.
Present.
Beyondich.
Present.
Johnson.
Here.
Baranzelli. Huffy.
Here. Would everyone please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We're with item 4 on the agenda, which is public forum. This is an opportunity for anyone from the audience who would like to come up, speak, and address the council. You're welcome to do so at this time. Seeing no one, we'll move to item 3 on the agenda. Item 5 on the agenda, which is a consent agenda. The following items will be enacted by one motion, unless a councilor or a citizen of the City of Virginia requests this item be considered separately. Item 5.1 is approval of correction of the minutes of the regular meeting held on 5.1A, December 12, 2023. Item 5.1B, the Truth and Taxation meeting, December 12, 2023. And item 5.1C, the Special Committee of the Whole meeting, December 19, 2023. Item 5.2 is the adoption of Finance Resolution number 23-024, the Schedule of Bills. Item 5.3 is approved pay estimate number 1 for EnviroBait for the Public Safety Center asbestos removal in the amount of $126,675. Item 5.4 is approved pay estimate number 2 for EnviroBait for the Public Safety Center asbestos removal in the amount of $6,559.75. Item 5.5 is approved pay estimate number 7 to Kraus Anderson for the Public Safety Center house demolition in the amount of $336,919.35. Item 5.6 is approved the travel request for James Hunt and Brianne Coughlin to attend at the Duluth Wedding Show January 12th through the 14th, 2024 in Duluth at a cost of $504.75 each. Item 5.7 is approved the exempt permit for Whitetails Unlimited to conduct a raffle on Saturday, March 2nd, 2024 at the Elks Lodge in Virginia, Minnesota. Item 5.8 is approved the following massage licenses for 2024. Item 5.8A, Stephen Lapatka doing business as Masabi Therapeutic Massage. Item 5.8B, Mary Jo Lance. And item 5.8C, Wendy Lindsay doing business as the Pebble Spa Company. Item 5.9 is approved the 2024 tobacco license for Kyle Olson doing business as Bailey Lake Grocery. Item 5.9A, approve IYS Ventures LLC doing business as iMart Stores. And finally, item 5.1, approve the travel request for Christina Nicola and Stephanie Lyon to attend the Upper Great Plains Region 2 Institute training in Minneapolis, Minnesota at a cost of $1,750 each. These are the consent agenda items before the council today. Looking for council action.
I'll move the consent agenda.
Councilor Johnson moves to approve the consent agenda. Is there support?
I'll support for discussion.
Support for discussion by Councilor Freely. Further discussion will go from left to right. Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to pull items 5.6 and 5.10, please.
Okay, Councilor Paulson moves to pull 5.6 and 5.10 for further discussion. Looking for a motion. Well, there's a motion on the floor to approve the consent agenda with these two items pulled out, 5.6 and 5.10. Is there any further discussion, Councilor Freely?
No.
Okay. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda minus 5.6 is 5.10. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. Before we go to 5.6 and 5.10, I recognized that you would like to speak with our council, and you called me earlier. And when you get to your item on the agenda, we'll certainly give you all the time you need to bring it up at that time. Thank you very much. Councilor Paulson?
Thank you, Mayor. So I'd like to go over item 5.6 if I could. I think it's page 43 in our packet, but I know we've got a couple different versions. So it's total costs per employee is $504. Then the total for the booth looks like it was $925. And last year, when we kind of went through this, the wedding show venue discussion in Duluth at the deck, I had asked for any type of booking confirmation of what the actual bookings were for the event that they were attending. Did the Iron Trail Motors Event Center actually receive any bookings? And I believe at that point in time, I was told that they received leads but not bookings. So I guess I'm at the point where I would not approve this, although the booth was paid for back in August 23 of 23. The booth was actually paid for, and I'm not sure why the travel request did not come forward with the booth being paid for. I'm not sure that should have come all together as one. So I'd like to, in the future, if there is a booking for something and we are making a deposit on something, they need to get the travel request in at the exact same time, because you can't just put the money down and then not have the approval for the travel. So those items need to go hand in hand. But at this point, I will not be supporting this travel request 5.6. And then on 5.
If we could just hold for the other one, if we're talking about 5.6 now, we can maybe, we have in the audience our Park and Rec Director Brian Silburn and Marketing Director Brianna Coughlin. Brianna or Brian, did you want to come up and make a comment regarding this wedding show travel request? And Brianna Coughlin, our Marketing Director for the Iron Trail Motors Event Center. Welcome, Brianna.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. We agree with you. All of the travel requests should have been in. City Administrator Ms. C. Bennis really felt like we should do this event. However, if the council feels like it's not worth our time, then we are fine rescinding the travel request. We can speak to Tracy Lundeen about a refund for the booth, and that's an option there.
Okay. Thank you. Councilor Johnson?
By not sending our staff to this, we're just saying, don't even bother, come. Part of our job of promoting this this facility is attending shows where this stuff happens. And yes, maybe we don't get any direct bookings while we're there, but it's marketing, it's advertising. Somebody who's there with a bride maybe getting married in 4 years and decide, hey, I remember seeing that. So I think we need to stop hamstringing our staff. We have to start supporting them in the things we've tasked them to do, and going to a wedding show in Duluth is one of the no-brainers for me that we need to do all the stuff we've been talking about for 3 months about generating revenue and selling spaces. That won't happen if we're not out there advertising, if we're not out there talking to people. You can put all the stuff on Facebook you want, but until they talk to one of our staff and they understand and they have that personal connection with a staff member, nobody's going to make any decisions to come here. So that this just, it's almost becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy at that building, where the council doesn't want them to do this, don't do this, don't do this. Well, they can't do anything, and so the building's going to fail. We need to allow them to do their jobs because they do them well. This Minneapolis trade shows, all of those things are part of the budget. It's all been planned for, and it needs to happen. We'll be making the motion to approve this item for sure. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor Johnson. I did have an opportunity to speak with our city administrator in communication with her in questions both these travel requests that we're discussing this evening, and she indicated that the anticipation was because the booth was paid for and they're ready to move forward with that, they anticipated that this would be a travel item for our marketing branch of the Iron Memorials Event Center, and it was included in the 2024 budget. That was one of the few travel requests that was not cut for any request for 2024 because it was in anticipation that this portion was prepaid. So that's where we're at now with this particular issue. I just wanted to give some more information update as to the reasoning behind that. It is in the 2024 budget as a result of the prepay back in August for the booth itself. We'll go back to Councilor Paulson and then move around the room. Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. And I think we could get a refund. I didn't read anything in here about not, it's a $150 non-refundable deposit, pay 50%. So I think we'd have to have a conversation regarding getting a booth refund. But unless and until I see that there's actual numbers coming forward, like, you went out there, you guys presented, you got some bookings, direct bookings that we can account for. I just can't support this type of an expenditure when we're under, I understand it's possibly in the budget, but I just feel like you need to have some proof with what you're doing going forward. And then I guess I'd like to address personally, I've been listening over the last couple months about being attacked personally, whether it's use of the word hamstring or we're shutting down or whatever when I say certain things by certain members of this council. And I would just like to remind this council of the respectful workplace policy training that we received, and I would ask that you keep it respectful going forward. But that being said, I will not be supporting item 5.6. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Paulson. We'll take this one issue at a time, address them 5.6, resolve that, and then move to the next item 5.10. Any other questions or comments about 5.6? Councilor Motley.
So you guys went to this last year, and how do you think it went?
So just to respond to Councilor Paulson, there was no salesperson last year. So literally just people standing at a booth and people walking by picking up tchotchkes. There wasn't a salesperson. I'm a dedicated salesperson, so it's quite different circumstances this year with somebody who actually gets leads, collects them, curates them, and follows up with them. It just presents itself a lot different in a sales world when you have an actual salesperson.
Do you think it is going to be beneficial for the Iron Trail Memorials Event Center if you go there?
I would like to see this $1,100 plus the $925 go to targeted marketing, that we follow warm leads, hot leads for people that are party planners who are having decorating businesses. I'm not saying that this is not beneficial and that it can't be, but in my 25 years history in sales, the trade shows I've attended, they are really lucrative when you are in a niche. Like, we are not in the wedding niche. I'm not going to make that decision, but I can tell you that I would love to see $2,000 go towards digital targeted marketing.
Thank you for your response. After hearing that, I know how I instantly will be voting. That made it a lot easier. Thank you. Thank you.
I also don't want us to lose, and we have yet to see whether we can get a refund on that booth. So having said that, I don't want to throw that $900 down the tubes. We can obviously make it lucrative with a dedicated salesperson at that event. It will be much different with me there.
So,
Yes, Councilor Motley.
so when will we know about if we lose that 900 or not? Like,
And we just heard from Tracy Lundeen that it is too late to get a refund. So it would behoove us to go there, not waste that money that we've already spent. And I do believe that I can make it lucrative just from a sales standpoint.
so because it's non-refundable, now I feel like now I have to switch my
It's just
how I was going to
yeah.
vote because after hearing you speak, but
And I just think it's good information going forward, having knowledge about how trade shows work and who works them and how you're collecting those leads and then following up on them is incredibly important. If you're not doing that, if you don't have a person dedicated to doing that, you should not do a trade show. So this year, we have a way to collect those leads, we have a way to follow up on them. I will do that. Now that I know that it's non-refundable, absolutely, I don't want to lose $1,000.
Okay, just one more question, sorry, and I don't know if this is you, but who booked this with, it was this $900 non-refundable, who booked that?
Brian, do you know who booked Jim Hunt signed it, the document too?
Yeah, Jim Hunt is the one who signed off on it after we had a team meeting with Britt, and Britt was in full support of us attending this trade show again.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. So just a clarification, is it a potential refundable amount of money or not?
No, Tracy Lundeen just texted Brian and said, no, it is not a refundable
I
amount of
see
money.
his signature is on there, and he's kind of the big marketing,
They are the host, yes.
he's the host of the wedding show, and I see it advertised all over on his radio show, et cetera, so it's non-refundable.
Right. And I believe that we can, counsel, we can make it productive for us, whether it's direct leads this next year or 2025, or simply really wonderful brand awareness for us. We're bringing a Vice bumper car with us, so even just that exposure, it's so unique and the only ones in Minnesota to have it. So it will be lucrative. I don't want anyone to get downtrodden about us losing money. It will be lucrative in the long run.
Yeah, so it says a 50%, $675 for the corner booth with pipe and drape. And then $250 for the pro package, which includes bag stuffer, social shout out, and the day before the setup. And then the total due $925, 50% by 7/15/23, which was paid. And the remaining balance by 11/15/2023, which was paid.
Paid in full.
Paid in full. Okay, thank you very much, Brianna. Appreciate it. Anybody else over here? Councilor Freely, and then we'll go over to Councilor Beyondich. Councilor Freely.
I would just say I echo Councilor Johnson's comments. I think it's imperative for our staff to be visible at these types of, especially regional events. I mean, Duluth and North. Granted, we're not a wedding niche per se, but we have an event center that can be provided to those types of events that would be exceptional for that. So, and I think the networking is also going to be valuable as well to meet the kind of people that are involved in these kinds of things. If we're looking to save money, is it imperative to have 2 staff members at the booth, or could we just send one? I mean, if that's what we're looking to do is save money as opposed to like present what we're trying to do down there, that's an issue. But I mean, if we're looking to save pennies, then that would be one suggestion, is like if both of you don't have to go, then have just one go and save the $500. But I'm definitely supportive of our staff personally being there, engaging with the public, and selling our facility, because we're trying to raise revenue there, and this is the way that you begin doing that.
Thank you, Councilor Freely. Councilor Beyondich.
Thank you, and thank you for what you had just said. Have we tried doing a wedding show in our facility? Or is that something that you were thinking of doing?
We've discussed, yes, we have discussed at length doing that. That's something that is going to take a lot of time. I've only been with you guys for 10 months, so I'm hoping to get that momentum going where we can probably do that. And I would love to see it done in fall, because people make their venue decisions in fall for the following year.
And when things are booked, is it, I don't know, Brian, are things typically booked like this came to us as a travel request for something that's already been booked without, I don't know, do they need approval? What is the threshold for a department head to spend before it comes to the council? Do we know?
Well, first, Sherry.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Department head has $2,500 spending limit.
Before it comes forward to the council?
Correct.
Okay, so, and maybe this is just a learning thing that I don't think we should be booking things until we know if somebody can go, because this is what we've run into. So when you book, if you're thinking of doing this, when they book it, to bring the travel request or tie it all together? A suggestion. I don't know if that's, Rich is in here to answer those questions, but it just seems fragmented when it's already been booked, and then it comes forward.
And in hindsight, before we had even sent the first check with the application, at that point, we should have been doing the travel request. That was back in August, as one of you pointed out when we did that. So, but hindsight is 2020.
And I can take that on personally because I've never had to put in for travel requests before. So now knowing that going forward, when something like this comes up as a marketing opportunity, I will definitely be much more proactive about getting that in when the actual event is booked.
Thank you.
Ignorance on my part.
Sure. And just a comment for Councilor Friedlieb, because I've had to sit and do these, you almost need two people, because to go there and have one person, you don't get a break to use a restroom or to get something to eat or.
Thank you. Totally true. I've been to lots of these trade shows, and it's really difficult as one person. And I don't know that I'm hauling in an ice bumper car by myself, just logistically.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Beyondich. I have a question for you, Sherry. It appears as though we're only down to a $504 difference. Not to approve this, we have a non-refundable obligation of $900 and some dollars. And so what do we get out of that if we don't go? Nothing. So we're investing another $504,000 for two people to go down to there, and we're talking about maybe only sending one. So that brings us down to $500. My question to you, Sherry, is that we paid for the booth in 2023, and we still have a budget until the end of December of 2023. In that budget in 2023, is there travel money available in the 2023 budget to help offset the cost of this, yes or no? Brian's shaking his head no.
I defer that to the department head.
Okay,
Should know
Brian?
their budget.
For the 2023, this current year, we've used up that budget.
All right, thank you very much.
For 2024, which is where the actual travel expense will occur, we have budgeted for that.
Yeah, I understand that. Thank you, Brian, for that clarification. Because when we're talking about the 2024 budget at 4% levy, we set the budget, we're limiting any travel request to emergencies only. That's kind of what we discussed. For 2024, it'll be later on down in the agenda tonight. And so if it could be salvaged, if there was money in 2023 that was available to be transferred over there, we wouldn't have to burden that in the 2024 budget because it's a non-emergency type of circumstance. It doesn't require licensures or anything of that nature. So, but seeing as you've used up in your entire budget, that's not an option to become available. So, do we have a motion on the floor?
Mayor.
Okay. Before we move forward, Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. In light of that discussion, I can't vote to have the city lose $925, so we have to move forward with it. But what I am going to say is that before anyone else makes a motion for any other reason, I would like to make a motion that any bookings that are being done have to accompany a travel request prior to the time of booking the event, and that those, I don't know if you're following this, Pam, and that those requests need to come to the committee of the whole meetings for discussion and not just be added as a consent agenda item on the council for the council meeting. So I don't know if you caught all that. Okay.
Support.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the motion on the floor by Councilor Paulson, does anybody need that motion read back? Been moved by Councilor Paulson and supported by Councilor Freely. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No. Motion carries. I'm sorry. That was your motion. Okay, so I apologize for that. So roll call, please, Pam, on that motion.
Motley,
Just to clarify, this was Counselor Paulson's motion?
Correct.
Yes.
Friedlieb,
Aye.
Paulson,
Aye.
Beyondich,
Aye.
Johnson,
No.
Barancelli. Yes. Huffy,
Aye. Motion passes 6-1. Thank you. So looking for another motion with respect to the travel request that's under discussion right now, which is item number 5.6, to travel request for James Hunt and Brianna Coughlin to attend the Duluth Wedding Show January 12th through the 13th, 2024 in Duluth, Minnesota at a cost of $504.75 each.
I'll move approval as presented.
Approval, move to approve by Counselor Johnson, supported by Counselor Freelieb. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, let's move back now to item number 5.0. Counselor Paulson?
Thank you, Mayor. If you go online to the Great Plains training, multiple classes can be done virtually for continuing education credits. And so if they included only one page in our packet, which is the front, I guess, but if you scroll through the rest of it, registration for virtual classes is even less than. So if we're talking need for educational credits, I would be much more comfortable going with the virtual classes. And one of those virtual classes I noticed was actually for new inspections of homes. So I thought that would be something maybe valuable as a virtual class as we are foraying into the new inspection world. But at this point in time, I don't feel that that is a justified expense. I feel that that is a very expensive fee, not only for the registration, but also for the travel. So at this point, I would say no to this travel request. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Counselor Paulson. And I did have an opportunity to discuss this portion of the travel request with our city administrator, and indicated that it is an option for the staff to take the building official classes online. This training is a great one-stop shop where they can get all they need for this continuing education credits. They get their CUs by taking the class online in 1 week. So not so much travels would be needed outside of this event here. They can take it online in which to accomplish that. And not all classes or topics are available online, but this particular class gives them the opportunity to get as many continuing education credits as they're going to need moving forward. Only 5 out of the 40-plus classes of this training that are available online. And if only 5 topics are not what they need, their CEUs, they wouldn't help us anyway. So the encouragement is to take the classes online. And that's the information gleaned from my discussion and follow up with our city administrator.
I will move to approve the travel request.
Councilor Johnson moves to approve the travel request. Is there support? Is there support? Is there support? Motion fails for lack of support. Okay, Council? Councilor Motley?
This might be totally out of your wheelhouse, Jenny, but do you know anything about this? Could I get some information if you have any, please?
Mayor?
Yes, Jenny, please.
Thank you, Councilor Motley. It is a little bit out of my wheelhouse, but I was able to look into the travel request and what the training offers. And it's my understanding that there are some virtual options available, but not an entirety of the whole 1 week course that's available in person. And there's certain credits per course that you need for certification to be maintained. So there's like 7, my understanding of it is that there's 7 CEUs that can be obtained per course, which is an 8-hour course. So 1 per day essentially per staff that would go to those courses to maintain their certification as code official inspectors.
So the question would be, if I may, so is it necessary for these two employees to travel for these classes in person, or can some of these CEUs be earned by doing it virtually in this particular training environment?
Thank you, Mayor. I think it could be a combination, but you need 35 credits every 2 years to maintain your certification. So it's almost like a bigger bang for your buck if you were to go to the 1 week course to get all of those 35 either once a year or every other year.
So in order to attend this in-person class and get all these CEUs in one and go into this class in person, they can't get the same amount of CEUs by doing it virtually. So there's certain ones offered that aren't virtually and some that you have to be in person to attend.
Correct.
And $1,750 per person to go down there for that 1 week course. And looking at the travel request, the majority of that cost is for hotel and meals.
Yeah, well, it's almost even, because I think
About
it's
even?
$900 per person for the registration for the full week.
Approximately $900 for attending the seminar, for the payment to earn those CE credits, and the rest, because it's held outside this county area, it's in Minneapolis, there's a cost for hotel and lodging, and they'll be taking a city vehicle as well, is that correct?
Correct, and the region is a 4 to 5 state regional area as well, so it is unfortunate that it's in the cities. However, when you're looking regionally, it's also multiple states in the area.
Okay, and thank you for that, Jenny. And our city administrator said it, again, not that you have to spend the money, but it's a budgeted item for 2024. It's a necessary travel request to earn continuing education credits to maintain their licensure in that particular position. Councilor Motley, does that explain it a little bit better?
It does, and I know, Jenny, you've been here probably about as long as me or whatever, but any chance do you know if, or does anybody in this council know if our past individuals have gone to this and this is what they do for their renewing of their certification, or is this something new for, I know this is probably tough, new for 24?
Well, I know we've sent our engineer, when it was an engineering department, Bill Cole and Bill Hendis, to some of these classes. I'm not sure if it's exactly the same classes. There was a significant cost at that time for those classes. Sherry, would you happen to have any historical knowledge in that regard?
That's my understanding. We've sent Christina Nicola there before, and this is a continuing ed to keep her certification. And we're also now introducing Stephanie, and so she's getting educated and hopefully certified.
So these employees who are in the positions prior to Christina Nicola and Stephanie Lyons, they went to these classes?
Correct. Bill Cole and Bill Hennis.
I'm sorry, Bill Cole and whom? Bill Hennis. Okay, thank you. Any further questions, Councilor Motley? Okay, Councilor Paulson?
Thank you, Mayor. So I would still maintain that most of these can be done online, and I would like to save the taxpayers' dollars. So I would approve online, but I think the motion never got a second. So I think we're just having a discussion at this point. But I would not. I would be fine with an online situation, but not the extra expenditure. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, is there a motion and a second? I don't think, is there? No second. No second. There's just a motion made by Councilor Johnson or Councilor. The motion was made by Councilor Paulson. What was the motion? No. No, she didn't make it yet. No. Okay. Okay. We're on the right path now. Councilor Freilieb.
So Jenny, you're the department head of these employees then? No? Britt is? Ultimately, I guess I don't know the hierarchy of the...
Christina and I are essentially department heads together of the community development, which would be my side of things, and planning, and then hers is the permitting. Where previously it was the engineering department, and now it's kind of two.
But essentially, so within that department, Sherry, correct me if I'm wrong, there's been money appropriated for professional development, and the department head has recommended to the council that the use of that money to be committed to this particular event is reasonable.
Sherry?
Mayor, Councilor Freelieb, yes, there is budgeted money for this in 2024.
And that recommendation has come forth from the department head to recommend these people to attend this event at this cost. I would move that we approve this travel request. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Moved by Counselor Freelieb to approve the travel request for Christina Nickel and Stephanie Lyons to attend the Upper Great Lakes Region 2 Institute, Minneapolis, at a cost of $1,750 each. Is there support? Support by Counselor Johnson. Further discussion. Just to clarify my conversation and subsequent answer from our city administrator, that by doing so, by sending them to this travel, that there would be very little travel, if any, needed to get the remaining part of the CEU credits. They could do the rest of those online. So it has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Beyondich.
So by going to this class, they're then certified for 2 years, or how long does that hold? 1 year?
Jenny?
It's my understanding, thank you, Mayor, it's my understanding that it would be 35 credits required every 2 years.
So are they certified now? Is that certification coming to an end? So by doing this, they would
It
be
would
good
continue it.
for 2 more years, 2 additional years.
That's my understanding.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Beyondich. Thank you, Jenny. It has been moved and supported. Further discussion? Counselor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. None of this is really making much sense. It doesn't seem very clear to me regarding the 2 years and then if it's virtual or not. They have 2 years to obtain 35 credits, but they're not going to lose their licensure if we forego a 2024 expenditure when we're tight on our budget, even though you're saying, Sherry, it is budgeted for both of those people in that amount, $1,750 each.
I have, actually, there's more than that. We use the same, directive was to same travel and registration as 2023. So that's what we have in there now.
But then in 2025, they would not need that since they met the 2-year requirement of a 35 credit. If what was just stated earlier is that taking this entire class gives them the full accreditation.
That is my understanding. I didn't involve in the
it's
travel.
not clear to me,
But
and I can't vote on something that's not clear, because if they have 2 years to do it, we're tight in 24, they could technically do it in 25. So I'm not following this line at all.
well, with continuing education credits, you need to continually be educating. That's what
Sure.
it means. So they give you a time period to keep your certification. If you can get it done in one lump, great. If you can expand it and you have the opportunity to keep your continuing credits here and there, great. But by 2 years, you better have your full 35.
Right, and I'm just saying, like, a lot of this can be gleaned from online, and then you would not have the hotel and meal and travel expense. So that's what I'm most looking at right now. That's why I said I'd be comfortable with the online, but I need to understand more because it's not quite clear, that the discussion that we're having isn't quite clear to me. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Counselor Paulson. So it has been moved and supported to move forward with this. Is there any further discussion? First, Counselor Freelieb, and then back over to Counselor Beyondich. Counselor Freelieb.
Those are valid concerns. Like you did read from Britt that there's 40 some odd classes, only 5 of which can be acquired through online. And so of those 5 that could be completed online, are those the only 5 they need to become certified? That's what I would be interested in. Or are there others that they can only access at that institute.
And in this,
What they need can be done online, and there's no sense in sending them.
and to clarify the last part of Britt's message, or city administrator, those 5 topics are not what they need in their CEUs in any way. So those online, the other online available classes aren't what they would need for their CEUs, so it would help anyways. So her recommendation is that they were able to go to these classes unless they're available online to obtain their CEU. So the question before us today is anything that's in our packet, are those classes available for their CEUs online? Some of them you can get them online, the other have to attend in person. That's what Jenny had indicated earlier. So you have to be in person to get those. So the question is, one question, when did their certifications expire? How long is it authorized under the statute for them to take their classes in order to stay certified? And if they're not certified, they can't perform their work. So all those questions, I think, are things that are answerable. I don't like spending the money if it's unnecessary, but we had indicated in our last budget, if they're continuing education credits that are needed to accomplish the goal and objective to ensure their licensure, that's what we talked about for the 2024 budget. No unnecessary travel that doesn't require a CEU credits will be approved. In this particular case, CEU credits are required in order to obtain that. I think it's not the CEU credits, it's the for lack of a better term, the shock and awe of the cost associated with it by going down to Minneapolis with half the cost to get their CEU credits, and the other half for lodging and meals. So, Sherry.
Hi, Mayor and Council, thank you. You know what, this is an early bird registration because there was a discount. So we do have a little time, and I believe we have a committee of the whole meeting next Tuesday. I think we should have the department head, Christina Nicola, come in and answer some of your questions. There's some things that I can't answer for her, so.
Okay, thank you. So it has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Beyondich.
Thank you, and I was just going to ask that on the time frame for the registration. So our time frame would allow us to do this at committee of the whole and still receive that, so we could get the questions answered that we need.
Sherry?
Oh, sorry, I'm going to pass it to Jen, because that is it just in my email said ensure that the early bird registration discount was given.
Yeah.
Explain that once again, Sherry, for everybody.
We have until January 8th to get the registration in.
Okay, thank you. To take advantage of the early bird? Yes. All right, thank you. Councilor Beyondich?
So we could bring this to the committee of the whole meeting and have all the questions answered.
It could go back to the committee of the whole. It is. They could, yes. But there's a motion on the floor in support to approve it.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have any other questions or comments regarding this? Councilor Motley?
I would like to see this, for me, on how I'm going to vote, I would like to see this put back on the committee of the whole so more questions can be answered. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Could you read back the motion and support for that motion, Pam?
By Councilor Friedlieb, supported by Councilor Johnson, to approve the travel request for Christina Nicola and Stephanie Lyson to attend the Upper Great Lakes Plains Region 2 Institute in Minneapolis, cost of $1,750 each.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Johnson?
Thank you, Mayor. I would think that the staff are very cognizant of our budget woes, and they are making the best decisions they can for their departments. And I see that it's been signed by our administrator, which to me indicates that she has vetted it and feels that it is appropriate. And I'm concerned about the amount of time we're spending on something that we've entrusted our staff to look up and follow the process to bring it to us. and it was put on the consent agenda for that reason. So I will be supporting this as I feel that they've already done their due diligence to make the request.
Okay, thank you. It has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? I'd like to make a comment, but I'll wait, I'll hold it on advance until Councilor Biondi. No, Councilor Biondi, go ahead.
Thank you. And I think that's why previously a motion was made to bring these to the committee of the whole meeting so we don't run into this at a council meeting. So having it come to a committee of the whole meeting where it can be discussed or questions answered is helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think it's prudent as well for us to make sure we do a due diligence regarding all the money that's being spent, particularly in light of the 2024 budget. Even though it's budgeted 2024, it is something to consider. I do know that it's supported by our city administrator, and she worked very hard along with all of us to try to bring that budget down, the levy down to 4%, which, again, the budget for continuing education credits only, those who need to maintain their license get travel, nobody else. So the travel budget's been cut significantly as a result of that. So we want to make sure that they have that done. Now, I don't have a problem with moving back to the committee of the whole meeting for us to get some more clarity on how many CE credits they're going to earn, what other classes are available, to get some more clarity about it. It's nice to have that. But in light of that, because it's required CEU credits, and I don't know how many credits can be obtained by just doing the online. Some can and some can't, as alluded to by Jenny. So, but has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Councillor Paulson, and then over to Councillor Freely. Councillor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess I have a question. Do other communities pay for their continuing education credits for their employees to maintain licensure? Or is the city of Virginia one of the only communities to do that? Do we know?
We pay for, I can give you an example. We pay for CEU credits for our police department. They have 40 hours each to maintain their license to practice law enforcement. We pay that. We also pay their, I don't know what it is, it used to be $90, maybe it's more for each officer to have their license renewed for a 3-year period. We do that for police and fire. We do pay some CE credits for our fire EMS, which we've done for many, many years. And I can't speak on for the other communities, but we do within the city many of those things.
So it's across the board, we pay for continuing education credits for all departments?
That I don't know. We'll have to refer that to Sherry.
If it's required for their job, but if it's an additional, like SHRM, we don't.
Okay, so maybe that's something we could talk about in the future. Because I've seen a lot of we pay, I don't know if it's the Minnesota Department of Education on the bill run, and I wonder where those are going to or how that's being allocated. So I was just wondering if it's a standard practice for the city of Virginia to pay continuing education credits throughout all departments, and apparently it is.
For some positions, I mean, the police, the fire, their EMT or EMS paramedic certifications, we do that. For the police we do. There is some for the pesticide licenses, things like that the Public Works. So yeah, there is. I mean, we can give you a list. And feel free anytime during the week to shoot us an email.
I'll email you, Sherry. Then the next question that I had is, could we be provided a list of curriculum or requirements for accreditation? What is actually needed? Could I be provided a list, or could the council be provided a list of continuing
For every job description?
No, just for these particular 2 job descriptions.
These 2?
What the expectation is for their continuing education credits, and that would help me to evaluate going forward costs associated with them. Thank you, Sherry.
Thank you, Councillor Paulson. Councillor Freely?
I mean, we can discuss these things well into the evening. And Councillor Johnson makes a good point. There are people that are professionally paid by the city of Virginia to make decisions with regard to their budgets and their personnel. I guess I have to, in this regard, I mean, there is information that is missing that I would like to know, to be honest with you. A little more detail, a little more specificity with regard to what they need, when they need it, and by when, a timeline of sorts. So I guess, to be honest with you, at this point in time, I'd like to rescind my motion to approve this at this point in time, pending the receipt of that further information, since we have the time to be able to do so, and hopefully that can be done by next Tuesday morning. That's what I'd prefer to do, and gain that information and then move forward. And that's not with any distrust towards the recommendation that's been made. It's just that I need more information for my decision-making.
Okay, Counselor Freely is rescinding the motion to approve the travel request at this time. And there was a second by Counselor Johnson. Counselor Johnson?
I think it's irrelevant if he's rescinded his motion. I still support it, but there's nothing to support at this time.
Very good, thank you. All right, so.
I will move to table this till Tuesday's meeting.
Okay, so do we have to vote on the rescinding of the motion, Brian?
Yeah, so as a technical matter, if the motion's been rescinded, it would be, we would vote on the well, I guess we wouldn't vote on the motion. A tabling motion is a motion that's made on an item that's currently before, so if it's been withdrawn, it would just be a request to add it to the agenda.
Would adjust accordingly.
Okay, thank you. So, Counselor, with the rescinding of the motion by Counselor Freely, Counselor Johnson moves to send this travel request back to the Committee of the Whole meeting for additional discussion and further information. Okay, no vote needed on that one. All right, thank you. All right, thank you. So, item number 10 has been taken off the council agenda for approval and moved to the Committee of the Whole meeting for additional discussion. Thank you. Okay, we'll move to item 6, appearances. There's no one scheduled to appear for the council this evening. We'll move to item 7, unfinished business. Item 7.1 is the clinic lease. Brian, do you happen to have any information at all with respect to this matter?
No additional information, Mayor. Mr. Modich and I continue to exchange information. Conversation is ongoing. It does continue.
Very good. And as we move forward, as the months go by, we're going to be more adamant about coming to some kind of an arrangement. Thank you. Any questions or comments about the clinic lease? Okay, we'll move to item 8, discussion items. Item 8.1, the meeting from Planning and Zoning that was held on December 11th, 2023. Item 8.1.1, consider the variance request for Wanda Hamlin, 601 8th Street South, 1A, allow the placement of a fence on the property line on the east and south side of the lot. Item B, approve the variance of a 3-foot-high fence where a 2-foot fence is allowed on the corner lot and fence construction as recommended by Planning and Zoning not to impede traffic safety or visibility at the intersection. So I would, seeing as the affected party is in the audience today and has requested to speak earlier at the public forum, I would ask if you'd like to come forward at this point in time and please come forward and to turn the light on to green if you would, please. And then please state your name for the record and welcome to the council meeting.
Yes, I'm Wanda Hamlin. I own the house at 601 8th Street South, and I'm coming to the meeting asking that the picket fence, the half of my fence, which is a picket fence part that was taken down, that I'm able to put it right back where it was. Actually, on the minutes here, it does say to put it on the property line, but my request was really to put it right where it was, not on the property line. So I'll start to tell you, the fence has been there for 30 years, and it was a picket fence that was actually, went around the corner. It was a 3-foot fence, went around the corner, and it did attach. I know it's strange but it did attach to another fence. This is a side fence that it attached to. This was my picket fence, and it was attached. So technically, I only took down half of the fence. And I did not know at the time that I had to have a survey done. So in May, I had called the city about having a survey. I didn't think I needed a survey because they said if you're leaving part of the fence up, you don't have to have a survey. So I apologize for that. It was probably my misunderstanding. I'm sure they explained it correctly to me. And so then I had somebody take the fence down, and then they cemented in posts where we're going to put the fence. The city came by and had us seize and stop, so we couldn't do any more. So that day I went in and talked to Mrs. Nicola, and she showed me on the computer that the fence was on city property, and on the corner you could only have 2 foot, not a 3 foot. The fence comes in 3 feet or 4 feet. And so then I got the permit. She said I would have to get a survey before I got the permit and go to the planning and zoning and get a variance. So I filled out the paper, did that, had a survey done. Luckily, I could get that done, had different estimates, went to the planning and zoning meeting, met with them. They explained that it was on city property, so they can't give me city property. It had been there for 30 years, and it was maintained by myself or whoever lived there. I was there since 2011. And they did approve being a 2 foot on the corner because it's not a solid fence. With a picket fence, you'd be able to see through. Your visibility would be okay around the corner. And they said I could put the fence on the property line. And so I went back and I measured and I thought, well, if that would work, but I don't know if you can see this, you can pass it around if you want. If I did that, it would be 2 feet from my house. I would look like a pool as if I was fencing in my house and not fencing in the yard. It's just too close. And, I tried thinking, if I could do that, I would. So, all I wanted to do is improve my property. I think there's going to be problems if people, always have to have a survey just to put up a fence where it was originally. I can understand if it's in a different place. Let's see. So that's what I'm asking the city if they would approve for me to put the fence back where it was. And also, if I had left part of the fence up, it would have been okay. But then what's part of the fence? I mean, is that a fourth of it? If I would have left 2 posts up, it took down the rest that was rotted, what would have been okay? So that's all I have to say right now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Wanda. So I've been to your place a number of occasions and spoke to you about this, and as recently as today on the telephone. And so, looking at the property, it's been there, the fence been up over 30 years, and in your planning and zoning meeting, they did make some adjustments and allow you to put a 3-foot fence instead of 2-foot fence up there. And by moving it onto the property line, it gave you a little bit more leeway on your property. And I understand when I went up there to talk to you about it and took a look at your property, by putting it on the property line, it's right in the middle of your yard within a couple of feet from your house, 3 feet from your house, so to speak. But so the issue for me is the question I would have, and this was probably something that you may have to address a little bit later on, and that is you have the fence that was approved by planning and zoning, the variance for a fence to be put back up, which would create an issue and require you to move the posts that have been cemented in. The question for me would be, and that's the question we had for you and for, I think, all of us, is that there's a portion of that fence that has not been taken down and has not been repaired, and that's along the 6th Avenue side. And so if that stays where it was, and it was in alignment with the original fence, by complying with the planning and zoning approval to move your fence in, you're moving that fence in on the 8th Street south side, you're moving the fence in, a portion of the fence on the 6th Avenue south side. So by doing so, you move those fence in, but the remaining fence still stands on city property, and you're not required to move that. So you'll have a staggered fence coming down 6th Avenue. If you move it, 6th Avenue, but the remaining part of that fence stays where it's at, as long as you don't remove it and try to replace it and just maintain it. And I know that you want to put a different kind of long-lasting material, and I think that was the goal and objective moving forward. And I know you gave your presentation to planning and zoning about that. So that being said, we had an opportunity to take a look at that. We'll talk about this a little bit further and find out what our options are. This is a recommendation by planning and zoning they made a variance adjustment for you to build this, to maintain a fence as you requested, just not in that same location. Councillor Friedlieb.
You know, when something's been somewhere for 30 years on a corner that has not impeded any kind of traffic issues or concerns, hasn't impeded any maintenance by the city with regard to their ownership of that property, the construction of the fence has already begun. It's already cemented in. It aligns itself with the existing fence that still exists on the east side. You know, I think, you know, I know that planning and zoning and Jenny's department, they're all responsible for aligning decisions with, you know, permitting expectations and regulations and ordinances. But to be honest with you, you know, it needs to be rational and logical when you're looking at whether or not some of the things that are being required are superfluous or not. And I personally think they are. They're unnecessary. I stopped there that day when I saw Northern Lights doing the surveying and asked the kid what was going on. Hasn't this been surveyed in the past? And if it has been surveyed in the past, those posts have been there forever since it was surveyed. So what's the necessity to resurvey it? Well, because those markers are no longer there. Well, they're no longer there, but nothing's moved, nothing's changed. There's no issue with the neighbor, I'm sure, with regard to you replacing that fence as well. So I guess, you know, we're at a point here in town where we're expecting and encouraging people to make improvements to their properties. And I think we have to start thinking in terms of like rational and logical decision making when it comes to these kinds of instances where something's been someplace for 30 years, and who eliminate those things that are becoming obstacles to people that are really not impeding anything with regard to the maintenance that's necessary by the city. So I just, you know, given my motion would be to allow her to complete the project as it's been begun and to move forward with that. And I don't see why we couldn't do that. I just don't understand it. But if there's other decision or people that want to give input to that, please feel free, because I can't fathom it, to be honest with you. Thank you.
We do have a member of planning and zoning in the audience. We could call that member forward. He did acknowledge to raise his hand to come forward. But before we do so, is there any other comments from the council?
I would support that for discussion, his motion.
Did you make that in the form of a motion? Okay, Councilor Friedlieb, get that motion. Thank you, and it was supported by Councilor Motley. Further discussion. First of all, you made this motion, and the second, Councilor Motley on the second, and then we'll go over to Councilor Beyondich. Councilor Motley.
Would this be 3 feet and picketed so it's, okay.
Please come forward so that the rest of the audience can hear you, please. Thank you.
Yes, it would be 3 feet, and when I was at the council meeting, the they said 2 feet, but they allowed 3 feet because it's not a solid fence. and people have the visibility around it.
And just to clarify, this is just replacing an old fence and making it
Right.
new again.
Same place that it was.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to go against planning and zoning, but if it's been there, I kind of echo Counselor Friedlieb that you made it nicer. It's been there for 30 years, so thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Wanda.
Thank you, Counselor Motley. Counselor Beyondich.
you. And being a liaison with the planning and zoning, I did sit in on that meeting. And somehow I feel we have these parameters. Planning and zoning did exactly what that was supposed to do. So I don't know if things can be changed within, like the ordinances and the rules of how things are determined, because that was, I think, at the meeting, there was a lot of discussion on this, and what it always came back to, and if you want to correct me if I'm wrong, what it came back to is it is city property, that if something were to happen, that's city property. And I think it has nothing to do with they're being mean because we can't replace a fence. That wasn't it. The way it's written, it is written to, it is city property. Where do the liabilities fall? So that planning and zoning is just doing exactly what is written on paper for them to follow. So, and I commend you because you talked and discussed on why it was not that we don't want you to put up a fence, but by what is written, that's city property. So where do the liabilities fall? And I think if we're going to do this, you have to be flexible or allow the commission to work off of what is on paper. Is that correct? Okay, so I completely agree, but planning and zoning is going off of what they are directed to do. And that's what the paper reads, that's what the survey showed. It is city property. So where do the liabilities fall? Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Beyondich. Counselor Johnson.
So when the letter you read us sent to us, it started with that you were going to repair the fence, and then the next paragraph said, but we replaced a bunch of things, and I think that's where the hang-up is. Had you done, the theory is you can fix your fence as you're going along, and had the fence been fixed a portion at a time, it probably would have not raised any issues. But because the complete fence was totally removed, and stuff was being done without a permit, I think that's where the issue came from, and I need to be able to support planning and zoning in that, because we're already discussing another item that we just had a public hearing on about, well, I didn't get a permit, but I built it, so what do we do now? And I think that what our planning and zoning commission and the planning department is really working on is consistency for everybody. Everybody needs a permit. If you need to fix a couple boards, that's fine. But if you have to dig holes, and if there were holes dug, was the 411 locator called? Like, there's a huge concern for me that if we didn't have a permit, what else could have gone wrong? And so I would be willing to support the recommendations from planning and zoning, but I cannot support just because you started it, go ahead, because I think that again leads to a very, very concerning precedence that folks are gonna figure out that if they just start doing something, they can just come to the council and we'll let them finish it because they started it and they should have, whatever. So, and I think this is also a really good lesson in making sure you go to the exact right people when you're talking about doing a project, that you're going to the planning people, you're going to the people who are going to be able to approve it, you're going to the right people instead of just chatting with other members of the city or a former employee or current employee. I think that's one of the things too that is hard for us, some folks to realize, is that again, planning and zoning is working hard on consistency so that it is equitable for everybody who's doing it and not just a few people here or there. So I will not be supporting the current motion.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Freely.
So over the 30 years that it sat there, what liabilities did we come to have any concerns about? None, to my knowledge. You know, and I don't know, like we use liability all the time in regard to liability, you know, like don't let those kids shoot baskets in the gym. Somebody might twist an ankle, have them all sit on the, you know, I mean, liability. So yeah, that there are liabilities. I don't deny that, but there's also gray areas in decision making at all time. In my opinion, and having been a former administrator dealing with handbooks, the only black and white in any situation is what's written on the page, as far as I'm concerned. And there's all kinds of variances that come into play when you discuss the situation. And from a practical, logical standpoint, if you go to her property, and if she has to build that fence now pushed into the property lines that were surveyed now, that line is going to go right across the well of her egress window in her yard, which doesn't make sense either. That impedes and creates a liability for anybody to be able to get out of that window in case of a fire. So in any event, I think that we have to start thinking in terms of what our constituency is trying to do in this town, which is to improve their properties. And those that have come forward to us, and that's no disrespect to the decisions being made by planning and zoning. They're following the black and white. I guess that's their responsibility. But I'm the one that's going to bring up the gray. There are gray areas here. And that thing sat there for 30 years. There were no liabilities that came to pass that anybody had to concern themselves with that I'm not knowledgeable of. And the project's already begun. And it's not going to create any imposition to any kind of traffic flow that never has had that for the past 30 years anyhow. So I'm just frustrated that we can't look at things from a practical, logical, rational standpoint, despite the black and white in the ordinance. You know, and well, if you do it for them, you got to do it for everybody. No, you don't. Every single one is separate. Every single one needs to be discussed in completion. And I just don't agree with that. Because you did it for them, you have to do it for everybody. Nope, it's a new one. We discuss it and determine that one based on the variables that come into play with regard to that conversation. So I'm frustrated by this because it's happening too often in town where people are trying to make improvements and they're expected and encouraged to do so and are having obstacles put in their way. Let's let people get things accomplished. And when it's up and begun, let them get it finished. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Freely. Councillor Beyondich.
Thank you. This isn't meant to be a frustrating issue. It is just what it is. Mr. Don Bird, could I call you up? He has been on the planning and zoning for years. And it is correct. If you do it for one, you're going to do it for all. And that's what we found. So could you explain why? And what can we do to work together that when cases like this come up, that we can work together? Because I sat there at your meeting and that is what it reads. That's what you did. And so I'm just trying to find a working relationship on how we can make this work for all of us, not to impede anything. So explain to us how and why you came to the decision, and how could we better help in this situation?
And
Thank you.
Would you please state your name for the record and then welcome again to the
Don
council.
Bird. Yeah, this is, fences are one of our biggest hassles, problems, I guess I would say. In this particular case, the fence was going up. There was no building permit. There was no survey. It was being built higher than what's allowed. It's on a corner, which always is danger. When the stop order was put in, it didn't know if it's going to be a solid fence or what. So it is, at that point, becomes a liability as far as an accident or something like that. We have had numerous garages that were torn down in Virginia and over the years I've been here. And they were right on the alley. And what we do, because part of it isn't just zoning, it's planning and zoning. So we're looking ahead. So the new garage, the person comes in and says, I want to put it right on the same footing or the same footprint. And the answer is, well, no, you have to be 5 feet in. And if you talk to your snow guys that do the snow plowing and all that, they'll tell you how much they like the areas where it's 5 feet in. You're not pushing in garage doors and so on. And I'm getting a little bit off the subject here, but in this particular case, with fences, we normally will not allow a fence on the property line. You have to be able, and it's written in the book there, you have to be able to maintain it from your own property. So when there's two neighbors and you never know if they get along or not, we have the fence usually in, I don't know how big your shoes are, in a foot maybe, so you can go paint it and still be on your own property and the other person can't call the police and say, get out of here. In this particular case, we saw the issue, so we approved her to put it right on the property line. And I can tell you in my 25 plus years, we've never done that. It's always been in a ways, because it's written, you have to be able to maintain it from your own property. We also approved a 1 foot variance for the front, the corner, from 2 foot to 3 feet, so it would fit with what the lumber or whatever she's using, plastic or whatever kind of fencing. And if you go down 8th Street to the east, there's it's a double wide prefab, whatever type, it's gray anyway. If you look there, the fence is in because that's where the property line is. And I was here when they came here 20 years ago. Anyway, long story short, we as a commission cannot approve a variance because where the fence is now is over almost 4 feet from her property line. She's got a 50 by 120 foot lot, same as I have, most of you probably have. This would give her a 54 by 120. So if the city is willing to give her these 4 feet, sell it to her, whatever, go ahead. But we as a commission cannot give a variance. I mean, it'd be like Larry and I living side by side and I put up a fence and you guys say, well, yeah, it's okay to have it 5 feet on Larry's land and Larry's there pulling his hair out. I mean, it's not the way it works. So we as a commission did what we could do. I mean, we gave her what we could do. It stinks, I get it, but that's what our job is, to follow the rules and regulations that are written. Can we make exceptions, like Gary said? We have to keep some kind of a continuous type continuity, because I can't tell you how many times someone's come in and said, well, they did. And I think the contractor should be more aware of this. And I will say, Ms. Hamlin was very nice to deal with. Her contractor was not. And the engineering department will tell you that story. That could all have been avoided if he came down to City Hall and said, here's what we're going to do. And so, I mean, again, I don't, might be a question for Brian. You know, can you approve her having a fence on city property? I don't think you can. I mean, just in my experience doing this. And if you do, just prepare yourself for that precedence, because it's going to come up again. Someone's going to want to build a garage on a city spot and something like that. That's about all I can say, I guess.
Thank you, Mr. Byrd. I appreciate that.
Anybody else have any
Well, we're still going around the horn here. I've got a number of questions and comments to make, but I'll hold that in abeyance. And we'll go back to Councilor Beyondich, seeing as she's a liaison for planning and zoning, and then we'll go around the room for anybody else who would like to speak before you come back up, Ms. Hamlin. Councilor Beyondich.
Thank you. And Don, thank you for coming up and clarifying how that went. And I think you have a valid point on being able to work through this. Is it proper or property that we could sell to her? So it is on her. You know, I don't know how all this works, but I appreciate the conversation. I think that's how we can get things accomplished instead of just doing. I value the commissions. I value the work they put into it. And like I said, your hands were tied on this one. You went directly by what was written down. And so if that needs to change, then we need to work on that. But, you know, you've done the work. And it is a tough spot. So I don't know what the options are, but he gave us an option for the city. So we'll let it go there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Beyondich. Councilor Paulson?
Thank you, Mayor. So first of all, how did this end up for a discussion item at the council level? Shouldn't it have gone to the committee of the whole for full discussion? No?
Well, she went to planning and zoning, followed the rules. Planning and zoning made their decision. It comes to the council for approval.
So didn't we discuss this at the committee of the whole, though? The last committee of the whole?
Normally, these people go to the, whoever it was, goes to planning and zoning. Whether they got a permit or not, they make their presentation to planning and zoning makes a recommendation, and it comes back to us. So, Pam? Any information?
You don't have to track that down right now. That's fine. You don't have to track that down right now. But my one question is, could the city grant an easement for that portion? Because honestly, if Mrs. Hamlin would have just done sections of that fence, she would have been well within what's on paper in the law or what's in the ordinance, although it was non-conforming to begin with. But it had that been there for 30 years. So had she just repaired sections of that, even though it's a non-conforming piece of property, basically, because the property, you couldn't go 4 feet back. It would interfere with her egress, it sounds like. So my question is, could the city agree to an easement and allow the repair of the 3-foot, approved 3-foot fence, but just do an easement for that portion of the property?
Yes, Brian, please.
So this topic actually opens a So a lot of times, if you're dealing in private property, if you have something that's on your neighbor's property for the requisite period of time, you become the owner of that property. That same principle doesn't follow with municipalities. The other basic tenet is the whole, and I may want to look at parts of this, but the whole idea that something that was built on the city's property, just because if you would have taken it down in sections and repaired it a section at a time, would have become okay somehow. That's not necessarily true either. I think to answer the question, the direct question, Counselor, are there arrangements the city could make, such as selling a portion of the property, entering into a license agreement, a lease agreement, an easement agreement, those sorts of things? Yeah, there are a number of options. But I share some of the concerns that have been expressed with, the common theme that we've got to make sure that our zoning codes are enforced equally amongst everybody. We've got this common saying in the law that no man can become a law unto himself. And a lot of times, if there's not consistency within the zoning codes, you can run into those situations. And so we can tweak the zoning codes, we can make changes, we can sell property to create the requisite setbacks and things that need to happen. We can enter into easement agreements, but we have to be careful how all that happens, because whether we intend it or not, a lot of those things do become precedential.
Mayor, and thank you, Brian.
Thank you. Okay. Councilor Freely.
Yeah, and Don, like, you've been here doing this for 27 years, so I'm not questioning what you do. I mean, you did exactly what needed to be done by planning and zoning, but now it comes to a new governing body to discuss the situation, and that's a potential remedy to that situation. It brings in legal aspects that I'm not aware of, but point being, I think as a governing body, we have to look at what's logical, what's rational, what we can do to assist this to be completed. And that's not saying they didn't do their job. They did their job. But now it's brought to us to determine whether or not the law of the land is the protocol they have to follow is what we have to follow, per se. Brian says, in a sense, we do, but we have some options avail to us to assist her in getting this project completed. And I guess my concern, Don, too, is like, you know, this city's 100+ years old. You've talked about some garages that have been torn down. I mean, are we going to try and, I mean, you're going to be responsible for trying to catch up on all of those violations to property lines that have been throughout the city. And it's going to impact people making further improvements to their properties by potentially dozens as time goes on. You know, so we're going to see this problem rear its ugly head many times, I'm sure, over the next several decades, potentially. And you've already seen that in your time that you've been there. These kind of circumstances come up. So in any event, I'm just, if it were me, I'd want to simplify it as best as I can. I wish I could be the one man that rules the law by himself, as you mentioned, but I'm not. But we are a new governing body that's reviewing this issue, and I think we need to find a remedy that is practical and logical for the property on which this fence sits. And right now, in my estimation, putting it back where it was to the variances that have been allowed by planning and zoning, even though it wouldn't be according to the property line, I think we should move in that direction. That's why I made the motion to move forward. If that requires other legal aspects to that, then we need to discuss those further or add that in after the fact.
Yeah, thank you. I have a couple quick comments here, if I may, please, just to, you know, it's been a long discussion. So for me, it's about what's reasonable and prudent. And planning and zoning followed the law, they followed the rules, they made every adjustment they could possibly make based within the purview of their responsibilities and authority. Now that comes to us, and we have other authority and recommendations that we can make. And I think we need to make recommendations, decisions, and deviate from certain policies and procedures under exigent circumstances. And I believe this is an exigent circumstance. So the question that I have is, so a portion of that fence was taken down. Now, people, it's been iterated here today that the entire fence came down. Not the entire fence did not come down. There's still an existing fence on city property, on 6th Avenue, that doesn't have to be moved. That's in violation, but that's not in question, even though that's part of the fence that's being repaired. So this part of the fence, the variance that's requested, and before here today, asking us to make a decision to deviate from the decision made by our planning and zoning department, that if we deny or we uphold the variance decision by planning and zoning, and Ms. Hamlin decides she doesn't want to move it 3 feet back for a variety of reasons, so that a fence will have to be, the post will have to be removed. Over $2,500 in costs associated with that so far, including but the other fence still exists and still can stay standing and doesn't have to be moved. So there's something inherently wrong with that. So if the decision by not planning and zoning, but by our city officials, code officials say they can't build that, so are they going to, are our city officials going to require, are we going to require them her to take that entire fence down, all the way down, because that's on city property as well? Or can that existing part of the fence stay? And it's old, it's dilapidated, it's wood, it's rotting, it needs repair. And that was the goal and objective of the original one, to improve that, to make it make it nicer, make it look good. Okay, I understand all that. So there are a lot of options moving forward here. Talked about the can of worms. We talked about how we can make a decision to override if we want and allow her to, Ms. Hamlin, to put the fence up on city property as it was before. There are many properties in this town that are in violation. Mr. Bird brought up the fact that there's a lot of garages, they want to put on the same event. Just today, this morning I was talking to an individual, put up a new garage, and it has been sitting in there for 50 years, and now they had to put a new garage up and it wasn't approved. initially. But then was allowed to build that garage there because there was no other place to move it. Couldn't move it anywhere. There's no setbacks. It had to be moved, it had to be built right there where it was, and it was approved to be built right there where it was. And we've overridden some other things with respect to garages as well, and a couple other fences too. One up on north side, one up on south side, not far from Ms. Hamlin's property. It was an existing fence or existing, deal. And none of those have ever been a problem for the city. There's never been a liability claim. There's never been an issue with respect to the snow plowing. None of those things. We heard all that information. But the bottom line is, are we going to approve the planning and zoning decision? And they did the best they could with what authority they had. We have other authority to change it if we wish to do so. My concern is, so you don't build it. You cut everything out. You take the posts out. And now you still have that one part of the fence that still exists. That can stay there for as long as it needs to until you decide you want to tear it down. That's what the ordinance says. Planning and zoning followed the ordinance. So it's up to us now. Now, it's almost like you're appealing this right now before us instead of us sending it back to planning and zoning for you to appeal it. I think this is making your appeal today. So we have a decision to make one way or the other. We do have a motion on the floor. Is there a second for that motion? Motion on the floor with a second to allow Ms. Hamlin, is that correct? To build the fence the way it is existing. Further discussion, Councilor Beyondich, and back over to Mr. Byrd. Councilor Beyondich.
Thank you. And honestly, I would be fine doing that, having the fence be built, but coming to light that it's on city property and the liability issue is what bothers me. Is there any document or whatever, if something were to happen, that the city would not be held liable? I mean, is that a possibility? Because I think that's kind of a hang-up, is we may not have known that fence was on city property before the survey, so there was no problem. But tomorrow, if something happens, we know it's on city property, and we are liable. So can we cover it that way?
Thank you. Brian?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, there are agreements that we can enter into. It's very common, as Councilor Paulson had indicated, in easement agreements to have liability clauses, exculpatory clauses, maintenance clauses, things like that. And then we may also want to, if this is the direction that the council wishes to move, we may also want to give some thought as to whether we would want that arrangement to be an appurtenant arrangement, meaning it runs with the land, or an arrangement made specific to a use. So basically it says, yeah, this project can move forward, but when this fence comes down again, it's not necessarily going to be given any right to be reconstructed. There'll have to be a new process and a new arrangement made. But the answer to the question is yes.
So the city could be protected in any case of a liability. And also, from what Mr. Byrd has said, we better be ready because there will be more. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Beyondich. Has been moved to support. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. Would whoever made the motion be amenable to amending the motion to include any such legal language for protection between the city and the landlord or the property owner?
The motionnaire is definitely in favor of that.
Thank you.
The maker of the motion, which is Councilor Freely, approves the amendment offered by Councilor Paulson. Does the support of the motion allow us as well?
Yes.
Thank you. And so it's been moved and supported. For discussion real quick, I think whatever agreement we come to, it has to be an agreement that goes with the property. And then whoever buys the property later on down the road, they can decide if they want to keep that in agreement or tear it down. But once it gets tears down, then there's no really other alternative. So in order to be clear about what the motion is before we take a vote and further discussion, read the motion back and then we'll have some further discussion.
Could you please repeat what you... wanted
So
to
it would be a
amend.
kind of a quotation of what our city attorney said. There are some legal remedies that we can add or address, which one of those could be an easement.
Liability clause?
How do you want to, however you want to word it, but just so that Counselor Beyondich has, I think, a better feeling for that we're doing things legally and the liability would be off of the city.
Brian?
Mayor, if I may, perhaps what we want to do is have the motion to approve the action moving forward be contingent upon securing those rights and protecting the city by contract.
So moved.
Okay, and support?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And then if you could add that little codicil to that, and then please read back the motion, and then we'll have some further discussion with Counselor Johnson. Thank you, Pam.
Moved by Counselor Friedlieb, supported by Counselor Motley, to allow Wanda Hamelin at 601 8th Street South to continue with the fence project and to place the fence where it previously was located, with the addition of the city securing the rights for the language. Brian? Or
My understanding was that it was that allowing that action would be contingent upon the city being protected by contract.
Okay.
Thank you. Contingent on the city be protected by contract. Moved and supported. Further discussion. Counselor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. Still not be supporting this. I'm concerned that we are creating a precedence for city property. I'd be much more comfortable selling her the 2 feet and it being her long-term. Anybody who lives next to a city lot, what's to stop them from building a fence in the middle of the city lot and going, can I just get an agreement? So I'm not going to be supporting this because it is city property. Thank you.
Yeah, and that could be part of it as well. And that should be one of the other option as well. Is the other is the sale, as long as we're protecting whatever method it is to protect the city from any liability. That could be a sale, could be part of that as well. Counselor Beyondich.
Thank you, and I would agree with that. I would much rather see the sale of the property, so it is not on the city. So if this motion passes, will you be drafting that, or will there be discussion on how we could move forward with that language?
Brian?
Thank you, Mayor. I think there would have to be a little bit of additional discussion. Before I can give a strong recommendation about what tool may work best, I need to take a little bit closer look at what's going on here. But yeah, once the method of protecting the city is selected, I would be more than happy to draft the document that's necessary to make it happen.
Counselor Beyondich.
Thank you. So would the fence be held off until that point in time where we have all of that language put together?
Typically, that would be my recommendation, but once I have a little bit more information, I think it could happen relatively quickly.
Thank you.
So the motion on the floor stands, and then it would be contingent upon the decision on the agreement that so the city is not liable. Whatever that action would be the additional discussion. You'll do some additional research on what's the best method in which to do so, and so part of that would be approval contingent upon. Okay, Councilor Beyondich.
Sorry. So that what I'm getting, this action would not be taken until until you have that complete. Is that correct?
The motion is to approve, and then it will be approved contingent upon that information provided to us in our decision we make in that regard. Is that correct, Brian?
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Beyondich. So it has been moved and supported. Please read the motion back one more time.
Moved by Counselor Friedlieb, supported by Counselor Motley, to allow Wanda Hamelin at 601 8th Street South to continue with the fence project and to place the fence where it previously was located, contingent upon the addition of the city securing the rights for the city to be protected by contract language.
That makes sense? Okay. Has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in... Mr. Byrd, come on up.
I just wanted to say, I think part of what Maya, agreeing with Maya, is that one of the concerns we had when we talked about this as a commission is, so let's just say the fence was built today and some kid is climbing on the fence and he falls, right? Well, it's not just a little bit. It's almost 4 feet. Okay, he falls, breaks his neck, whatever. Who is liable? And that's where that came. And I think that's really important to the city. The other thing is that the pillars or the posts are right against the city sidewalk. So the other concern was the sidewalk plow. So if the sidewalk plow damages it, there's have to be something written in there because the city has been gone after many times for garage doors in the alleys and things like that. So just so that that concern is in there. And just to show you how petty some of this gets, Councilor Friedlieb here, I had one here, I don't know, 17, 18 years ago where the guy put the fence on the property line. This one actually went to court. It was before Brian. Anyway, there was the cement in the ground and the post, and the cement was over the neighbors, over the property line. The fence was okay. Well, when it all got said and done, they had to chisel the concrete. That's how, when you're dealing with two neighbors. In this case, she has a good neighbor, the city. But, I just wanted to throw that in there. But, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Byrd. I think that concern that you just addressed will be included in any language with respect to the protection of the city with respect to liability. So, okay, it's been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Roll call, please, Pam.
Friedlieb?
Aye.
Paulson?
Aye.
Beyondich?
Aye.
Johnson?
No.
Barancelli? Yes. Cuffey?
Aye.
Motley?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-1. Okay, thank you. All right. Move to item 8.2 on the agenda. Appoint Darren Aller to the Cable Commission for a 3-year term ending 12/31/26. Just to note, Mr. Aller has been on this Cable Commission for a long, long time. I think back in the day when Councilor Cipla was on board, there was a concern about a 3-year term. I think we did make some adjustments back in the day where we appointed someone who was termed out, so to speak, 1-year intervals until we get somebody else to apply. And if somebody else applied, that they would take over for the persons whose term had expired and they're just serving. But this is a 3-year term ending 12/31/26, and there's no other codicil attached to this motion. So looking for a motion moving forward. Is there a motion on the floor or further discussion before we make a motion? Councilor Johnson.
I'm in full agreement with the single-year terms because they've turned out, and I brought that up every time we've appointed somebody who's termed out. So I will make a motion to appoint him for a 1-year term, hoping that someone will be able to step up in the next year.
Okay, Councilor Johnson makes a motion to appoint Darwin Aller to the Cable Commission for a 1-year term, and that would be ended 12/31/24. Is there support for that motion? Is there support by Councilor Baranzelli? Is there any further discussion? Here, Councilor Motley.
The only reason I'll be saying no is because I'm fine with the 3-year term. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. There's a motion on the floor to appoint Darwin Aller to a 1-year term ending 12/31/2024. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. I won't support this because we have also approved the last commissioner that was termed out for another 3-year term. We had just done that. So I think we need to stay consistent. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Paulson. So it has been moved and supported, to move for a 1-year term. for Darwin Arler on the Cable Commission, ending 12/31 of '24. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Roll call, please, Pam.
Paulson.
No.
Beyondich.
No.
Johnson.
Yes.
Baranzelli. Huffy.
No.
Motley.
No.
Friedlieb.
No.
Motion fails 5-2, but I do understand the logic behind it, but since we've already done that previously, maybe we should remain consistent in that regard. Councillor Paulson?
I'll move to appoint Darwin Alar to the Cable Commission for a 3-year term ending 12/31/26.
A motion by Councillor Paulson to appoint Darwin Aller to the Cable Commission for a 3-year term ending 12/31 of '26. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Councillor Motley. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Roll call, please, Pam.
Beyondich.
Aye.
Johnson.
No.
Baranzelli. Huffy.
Aye.
Motley.
Yes.
Friedlieb.
Aye.
Paulson.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-2. Thank you. Item 8.3, approve the temporary closure of 2 roads for the shooting of a commercial for the Super Bowl. And I think it's in your packet, those roads are going to be closed. Jenny, you have some information about that?
I do not have information about that, Mayor, but I do have something when you get either through that motion or if we can go back to.
Okay, as soon as, okay, well, let's, before we do that, let's go back to where you were talking about.
So I just wanted to make a clarification on the 8.1B item. There was a second part, or not a second part, but there was an additional concern with the variance request of a 3-foot being allowed by planning and zoning versus a 2-foot. And I don't believe that council discussed that part to move that forward. And I just wanted to make sure that that was part of consideration. Otherwise, you would be denying that portion of the variance request that was proposed to planning and zoning. So there was the property line issue, and then there was a height issue.
I thought the motion was to replace the entire fence, like put it up exactly the way it was before. And that was.
It wasn't 3 feet before, I don't believe.
What was it? I thought it was 3 feet.
Okay.
But
Well,
maybe
I just
not.
want to make sure that that motion was clear, that that was part of the discussion, because it wasn't really brought up.
Yep, thank you, Jenny. Let's get a clarification of that. That would include that, Brian?
Yep. So, Mayor, the way that I understood it, maybe the way we can clarify it on the record is, my understanding was the motion was that that the project would proceed as designed.
Does that answer, Jenny?
Yes, thank you, Mayor.
Yes,
Thank you, Brian.
No, of course you can. Come on up. See, we brought it up. It's
You did
been
a-
approved.
Oh,
We're all set
Wanda.
to go.
Okay, sorry. Wanda Hamlin, I was just going to say at the planning and zoning, they allowed me, instead of 2 feet on the corner, to have 3 feet.
Sure, and that's exactly what they.
But it had been 3 feet.
Correct. The original ordinance says it's because it's on the corner side, it was actually, the ordinance says 2 feet, but they, when at their zoning meeting, they made the acquiesce to 3 feet. Good, thank you. So that's all inclusive? Thank you. Okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you, Jenny, for bringing that up. Let's go back to item 8.3, approve the temporary closure of 2 roads for the shooting of a commercial for the Super Bowl. Brian, do you have some information about that?
I do have limited information on
Let's
this,
hear it,
which is
'cause
basically
we don't have that either. No.
what is in your packet.
in the packet?
Arrowhead Transit is requesting that we consider closing 2 roads, the road over by Masabi Animal Hospital and the road by Tennis for All, on either the 13th or the 20th for them to film a television commercial. I do have some serious reservations about the 20th. at the Tennis for All facility. We are hosting an ALS fundraiser that day, so we anticipate higher than normal traffic volume around there that day. The 13th, also being a Saturday, is a active day at the Tennis for All facility. If we're going to approve this, I would really like to know what time that they are going to be doing this so that we can coordinate that. I threw out a couple of other potential locations, but I haven't heard back. But I just wanted to express my concerns about the time, and we're not knowing the exact time and the location over at the Tennis for All facility. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. We have time for the next committee of the whole meeting to get some more research and get the answers to that. And we could do that. Or we could table this until you get here back from area transfer about any alternative dates you might have. Councilor Johnson.
I would move to refer this back to staff for a definitive plan for timing and location and what needs will come from the city.
Support.
Moved by Councilor Johnson, supported by Councilor Motley. Is there any further discussion? I hear it, Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. I just, I'd like clarification on what is it like by the baseball field? Is it in the back? Is it, I guess I'm not in favor of blocking off that parking lot at all.
Well, we're going to get
Tennis for all.
clarification. Yeah, we're going to get some clarification on
But I mean,
where,
like,
when,
at
how.
any, like,
yeah.
I think that facility is used 7 days a week. I mean, unless they want to do it after the facility closes, but we've got pickleball people coming at 6 a.m., I believe. I mean, it's busy. That building is busy all the time. So I don't want to impede people coming and being able to park and to utilize and access the building.
At this point, my first recommendation, which I have not heard back on, is we have a beautiful log cabin clubhouse that is currently not being utilized that overlooks a lush green golf course. In my mind, that is an ideal location to be filming a commercial at this time. So I would encourage Arrowhead Transit to look at that a little bit more. But I don't know what all specifics that they need or are looking for their ideal location.
Okay, the motion is to direct staff to get some more information on Marriott Transit and find a suitable location for them to film their commercial. That makes sense? Is that a motion? Part of the motion? It's part of the motion. Please read back the motion, Pam.
Moved by Councilor Johnson, supported by Councilor Motley, to table the approval of the temporary closure of the 2 roads for shooting commercial for the Super Bowl to gather more information on the exact date, time, and location.
Moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Aye, opposed. Motion carries. Thank you, Brian. Item 8.4 is adopt the resolution for donations from Shop with a Cop.
So moved.
Moved by Councilor Motley, supported by Councilor, pointing at each other. Okay, Councilor Beyondich, is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Aye, opposed. Motion carries. Item 8.5 is adopt the resolution for donations for the Tennis for All facility.
So moved.
Moved by Councilor Johnson and supported by Councilor Beyondich. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Aye, opposed. Motion carries. Item 8.6, adopt the resolution for park bench memorials. Moved by Councilor Motley and supported by Councilor Johnson. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed. Motion carries. Approve the final pay estimate number 3 to Envirobate for the Public Safety Center asbestos removal in the amount of $7,100 $170.25. Was this part of the, Pam?
Thank you. So this, they actually submitted to pay request and then the final pay estimate. So, and it is to adopt a resolution. I did not have that on there. So 8.7 is to adopt the resolution for the final pay request. And 8.8 is also to adopt a resolution for a final pay.
And that name, Envirobit, will never again be on the pages of our agenda.
Never say never.
I know, but this is the final pay estimate in that project. So, okay, there's a resolution in your package. Are we looking for a motion to approve? First, we'll go to Councilor Beyondich.
I was never in favor of this, only because it came forward to us for the change order, but Kraus Anderson was all over the paperwork on it. And then I was told the city actually hired, so I didn't understand why Kraus Anderson was on there. So I'm just having a hard time with this one, and that it was forgot. The address wasn't on there for the asbestos removal, and that's why it came back to us. So I'm just frustrated with the way this came about.
Yeah, I think they missed one demo house and then another asbestos house because it couldn't be done because there was still an occupant in there. Then it couldn't be done because the occupant was still in there. So finally it got done, and so this is final basement, but I share your angst. Councilor Beyondich.
Thank you. So Sherry, because on a change order, there is a percentage that goes back to, and because Kraus Anderson was on the paperwork, did they receive a percentage of this change order?
Usually there's a retention fee. I would have to look into it if Kraus Anderson received any of that.
And that's kind of my concern, because a change order, I was told the city did the hiring of this company. But if Kraus Anderson is on the paperwork, I don't want to see that percentage go if the city actually did the hiring themselves. Do you understand where I'm going?
Totally understand.
Okay, so is that something you can check on for me? Thank you.
Councilor Paulson.
Mayor, okay, so I just need to ask, if we go to page 59, because the math doesn't add up. I thought we approved the change order for it was like $19,000. Now, if you go look at the number 2, it says net change by change orders. There was only one change order. Now we owe them another $7,100. But what's $7,100 plus 19 grand? Are we actually paying a retainer fee in that amount above and beyond the 19,000? Because I thought we already paid the 19,000, which I wasn't in favor of paying in the first place. So let me go 26,000. Is the 19,634.75. So why are we paying an additional $7,170.25 when the change order was only $119,000, which I believe Councilor Beyondich and I were trying to make sure at the very beginning that Kraus Anderson wasn't getting a net change or a retainer fee coming out of this. So it looks like we're spending an additional $7,000. And I'm very concerned by that. Because if you really want to know the truth, there were other bidders on this project that bid, maybe they were just slightly over, but now if you add these change orders and then add this other $7,170 on top of it, that probably pushed TNT over the top of what the other bidder was. So I'm really concerned as to how this process is going. I'm not going to support this. Thank you, Mayor.
Well, why don't we just table this until we get more clarity and bring it at the next committee home meeting?
I'll move to table.
Move to table by Councilor Paulson. Is there support?
Support.
By Councilor Beyondich. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 8.8, approve the final pay estimate 2 to Masaba Bituminous for the 2023 street rehab project in the amount of $19,746.89.
So moved.
Moved to approve by Counselor Freely. Is there support?
Support.
By Counselor Motley. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Move to item 9, committee reports. Item 9.1, the committee of the whole meeting that was held on December 19th, 2023. 9.1A, direct staff to write a letter of support for the Quad Cities Curling Club regarding the world's largest curling broom project.
So moved.
Moved by Counselor Johnson, supported by
Support.
Counselor Paulson. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Item 9.1B, allow city staff to make recommended changes to the contract for the council to review and present to the Masaba Humane Society.
So moved.
Moved by Counselor Motley, supported by Counselor Beyondich. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Johnson.
So just to clarify, we are not approving the contract. We are just approving submitting it to them, correct?
Yes,
With the changes. Thank you.
with the recommend, yes, Counselor Johnson, yes, thank you. Okay, moved and supported, is there, has there been? Any further discussion on this thing? Counselor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. Is that in our packet, the changes? Is that just the independent contractor and that it's
They're
redlined?
highlighted in red.
The one redlined?
Yeah.
Those are the recommended changes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you bet, absolutely. Anything other action on that one? Okay, item 9.1C, I asked. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. 9.1C, direct staff and the city attorney to commence unlawful detainer action and to draft a letter to allow city staff to conduct an inventory of fixtures, furnishings, and furniture at the golf course restaurant. I think we have some additional information before we move. Would you rather us what's on this first?
Yeah, Mayor, we can move forward on.
Okay, move forward. I'm sorry, Counselor Paulson.
I'll move.
Counselor Paulson moves to approve, and is there support?
Support.
By Counselor Motley. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. Any other information to disseminate this time with respect to this matter?
Not at this time, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Item 9.1D, direct staff to seek other cost-saving abilities at the golf course clubhouse.
So moved.
Moved by Counselor Johnson and supported by Counselor Beyondich. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. Approve the proposed 3-year facilities use agreement with Independent School District number 2909 for the use of the Triumph Motors Event Center.
So moved.
Move to approve by Counselor Johnson. Is there support?
Support.
By Counselor Freely. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have a question. I just want to make sure, has this contract gone before the athletic committee? And have they expressed any comments, or are they comfortable with this current contract and the language?
Yes, this contract has been in front of the athletic committee. Changes were made throughout the negotiation process with them to get to this contract that they are comfortable with. No, it has not gone before the school board yet, but it has gone through the athletic committee.
Okay, I appreciate that clarification, and I'm comfortable moving forward. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. And just to clarify, in this contract, I just want to say it's just yes, so I don't need an explanation. It is for a minimum of 350 hours.
That is correct.
Thank you, Brian. Okay, it has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. Item 9.1F, approve the advertising and hiring of skating shack attendants for the 2023-2024 season if needed.
So moved. Support.
Move to approve by, what was it? Counselor Freely, and supported by Counselor Johnson. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. 9.1G, adopt the resolution to hire recreation assistants.
So moved.
Moved to approve by Counselor Johnson. Is there support?
Support.
By Counselor Freely. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. And I don't know if I should make a motion after this motion, but what I'm looking for is to get those, I want to do some maybe weekly revenue streams coming from the Iron Trail Motors Event Center. Concessions would be one of those, and that tracking mechanism is the Yellow Dog software. And I don't know that, I think a motion had been made in the past, but we are still not getting that information. So I don't know if it would be timely for me to do that, or if send it to the committee of the whole for discussion. But I would like to have that information starting at the beginning of this 2024.
I think immediately following 9.1G, once we vote on that, you can certainly make another motion to, for that purpose. Unless that ties into the hiring of the much-needed recreation assistants who have a pretty significant exodus from that. So, but the motion on the floor is to adopt the resolution to hire recreation assistants. Is there any further discussion on that motion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. Now, Counselor Paulson.
I don't know exactly how to craft this motion. I don't know if Brian needs to help me, but what I'm looking for is I would say the week. Oh.
Well, I apologize. Counselor Biondi, did you have something on this other, before, did we, what item are you talking about, the skating shack attendance?
The,
Recreation assistants?
I just need to recuse from that vote. Thank you.
I'm sorry. You recuse yourself? Okay, so the vote was 5 to 1 with one recusal. Thank you. Okay. So we're still on adopt the resolution to hire recreation assistants, correct? Approve that? Okay, so your motion next, Councilor Paulson.
So, Brian, what I'm looking for is I want revenue, not just from concessions, but I don't know if I need to break it down, but I need to make a motion then to make sure that it's a directive followed through. So I'm looking for, I want the next month, like say we're in December now, so I want the January bookings that are already been booked. Then I want it would be weekly totals of revenue generating, so we can compare where we're at from what's booked compared to what they've taken in. And I don't know how to craft that in motion, so I don't know if someone could help me, but I really want to get this so that it's a directive, so that it will start being done the beginning of 2024.
Brian?
Counselor, perhaps what you're looking for is just a directive that there be a summary of bookings 1 month out, and then a comparison of revenues generated from those, a report with the revenue generated from those bookings.
Yep, and I'm not looking for the number, like the actual, like we've got one wedding and one corporate event and one ballroom or boardroom event. I want the actual dollar values, then to compare the dollar values that have come in and been recognized. So however I need to craft that, but that's the expectation, and it's starting in 2024, so we can better assist going forward with the facility in financially trying to stabilize it.
Brian?
Thank you, Mayor. Counselor, is what you're looking for just a
Expenditure revenue, or revenue expenditure?
Maybe Brianna can shed some.
Brianna Coughlin, our marketing director for the Iron Trail Motors Event Center. Brianna?
Since I'd be probably most likely the one to do this, not for concessions, but for bookings. Weekly is going to be incredibly laborious for us. Things change on a dime. Things get booked, get changed, added, deleted. Weekly we can try our best. But I just feel like that is micromanagement at its worst right now for us, trying to
I'm not
do.
trying to do that.
Yeah, but trying to do our job in booking and making sure that these events go off without a hitch, and then having to do even more reporting. I will do my best, but I think what you're looking for is a balance sheet. You're looking for what we are booking and what's actually received, which is most often more. Because when we book these events, they often get catering added, coffee, which we can't possibly know how much coffee is going to be drank, how many linens they're going to use, that kind of thing. So we can try to do that to our best of ability. Weekly is just, I'm being realistic with you. It's just going to be very difficult.
And I appreciate that. I'm no way trying to micromanage, but I've asked for over a year to get any sort of reporting, and all I get is ballroom booked or boardroom booked or 2 corporate events, and we need to see the numbers. And I know Yellow Dog now is a software, it's a mechanism for concessions, but we also need a mechanism to cost out any events that are happening, how many staff members were there, and what were the added extras, how much was that total? So it's almost like, and I didn't mean to go on, but there needs to be somewhat of an accounting and an expectation going forward. So as we're planning, we're going to know if you're hitting those target numbers or not. I mean, that's how serious I am about needing those numbers, and I've still not received them. And I know you haven't been there, but yeah, I've been asking for over a year now, and I want to start 2024 on the best possible foot we can.
Absolutely, I totally agree in concurrence with that. I put together a monthly end statement of everything that we've booked in that month. Not that's what's happening that month, but what calls, emails, things that are being booked. So December, weddings got booked out till next September, right? So that all comes on that. I give that to Brian, and I know he presents that at Committee of the Whole, I believe, during the department head update. So you guys are getting that, and that does have dollar amounts. It's not just corporate one booking, corporate, it's actual dollar amounts. So that we do that. What's that?
That's new.
I've been doing that for, I think, about 4 months. So I do that. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Oh, when I started here, and I completely understand where you're coming from. When I started, one of my first questions as a salesperson was, what are our margins? And I just got blank stares. And whomever set up the room rates, whomever made those decisions 2.5, 3 years ago, there are no margins set. So for us to come to you and say, well, this is what we're making on this event, we were not set up to do that. So now we're working in arrears. So now we're trying to do all this work on a daily basis and play a catch-up game of this should have been put in place before the building was open. We don't even know what our margins are. To me as a salesperson, that is frightening. And so I would love to put that together for you, and I will do my best. For the Valentine's Day event coming up, I've got a spreadsheet. I know exactly what the profit is on each ticket, how much we're paying per plate. Just the problem being the labor intensiveness of that, and these things were not put in place when this building was open.
So I think that, and I'm so sorry, Mayor, to go on. I know this is a council meeting, but I think that's the crux and the problem. We've never had that. It never was set up. So my expectation is that we have to set something up, because we can't keep subsidizing that building for $1 million for operating costs when there's probably some software available or tool available to help. I know in my business, I have a specific software I can type in the stone cost, the gold cost, the weight of this. It does take time to do it, I agree. But once you're set up, you will know those. You just have to get it into the system. And then every event you have, then you just have to clock in how much staff, how much extra linens, whatever, this is what the cost is. So I know there's a way to do it. Right. And I just really, that's my motion. I want this to start being, we need to have accountability, and nothing against you personally at all. It's just that this is where the bear goes through the buckwheat with that facility, and we can't keep supplementing, because if they don't hit the numbers, at the end of the year, we're going to end up supplementing more out of the general fund. So there needs to be, it can't just be a loose, there needs to be an expectation of reporting. And I don't know how to craft that, but that's what I'm looking for. And thank you, Brianna.
Can we shorten that up a little bit, craft a motion? Oh, it's, well, need to be said, okay.
Mayor, perhaps the directive would just be to come back with financial data, monthly financial data on the operations of the building, of the facility, and then you could work with Ms. Cebenis
Perfect.
to craft what exactly we want reported.
Very good. Thank you. Sorry, thank you.
That's the motion?
That's the motion, Mayor.
You get that, Pam? It's not been supported quite yet. It's been moved by Councillor Paulson, supported by
Support.
Councillor Beyondich. Further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. 9.1H, approve the figure skating contract for the 2023-2024 winter ice season.
So moved.
Move to approve by Councillor Paulson. Is there support?
Support.
By Councillor Motley. Further discussion? One quick question for you, Brian. Once again, and I said it at the committee of the whole meeting, and I don't mean with any disrespect. I just want to be able to maximize the scheduling of any events. So including in this contract, is there a specific date set for the ice show for the skating at a specific time in March? And if it is, I'd like to make sure that we are maximizing all our possibilities for marketing this event, particularly in the Iron Train, the Homeboat Travel Show, which was a significant loss for us this year. So coming up, as far as we know so far. And so I want to make sure that there's a way you can work around so you can accommodate both. I mean, is it in this contract, the specific date for the show, for the skating show? Brianna?
Yes, absolutely, Brianna Coughlin. The Homeboat Travel Show, speaking to Councillor Paulson's really wanting to see the nuts and bolts if our dollars are making sense, right? The black and the red here. The Homeboat Sport Travel Show is a loss for us. We're in the red on that. I'm running the numbers from last year. The labor, we are only charging $30 for booth space. It's a big, huge moneymaker for them, but for the building in and of itself, we're running in the red on that show. Yes, it's great, warm and fuzzies. Everybody loves a good homeboat travel sport show. But for us as a building, we're going to run in the red on that. And that's just how the dollars run.
Well, that's based on current dollars, right?
In what respect?
Well, that's the current contract that you had before.
Yeah, so they're running on the de-escalating scale. So next year they'll still have a de-escalating of 30%. I think this year, 2024, if they would have elected to, they didn't elect to get the 2 dates that we gave to them with a pretty significant discount on both of those dates. If they would have been running at 40% discount, and then 2025 will still be 30% discount. So we'll still be operating at a little bit of a loss there for us, how much labor having the entire building have to be set up for that.
So I don't want to belabor this more. I think I'll reserve any more comments in that regard for the next committee of the whole meeting. So I didn't want to muddle up this contract for the skating.
But to clarify, the figure skating coach's contract has nothing to do with the figure skating show's date. That is set based off of availability of the ice and other events that we have, such as hosting state hockey tournaments.
Okay, so we have under H, we're approving a figure skating contract, but the next one is to hire the coaches.
Yes, and in talking about the coaches, their figure skating coaches' contracts have nothing to do with setting dates.
So you do, you set the dates.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That clarifies things. So it has been moved and supported to approve the figure skating contract for 23-24 winter ice season. Is there any further discussion?
No move for discussion.
Yeah, it has been moved and supported.
Oh, it has.
And
My
yeah,
bad.
Do you have further discussion?
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
Councilor Freely.
just a quick question, Brian. now that we have year-round ice, like, are these costs that we're incurring for this program a year-round cost, or is it limited to the 3 months of the winter, or where are we at with that?
It's year-round,
Have we
and
budgeted accordingly for that increase in cost for a year-round program?
yes, in addition, it does generate additional revenue equivalent to what youth hockey pays for ice, for offsetting the ice cost that figure skating uses for ice.
And
So
could
we're,
we, just generally speaking, are we breaking even off of that?
no.
Okay.
Not even close. The deal that we have for youth hockey and for figure skating is grossly under what it cost us to provide ice. But that's at the council's directive to keep prices affordable for these sports.
Thank you.
Okay, Brian, hang on now. Please, thank you. Clarify for me. So it's not a moneymaker? The ice skating program?
Ice is not a moneymaker.
You
An ice arena is not a moneymaker.
You generate from,
We generate revenue, but we don't generate enough revenue to cover the expenses of ice.
Mayor,
okay,
if
thank
I
you.
may.
Thank you. Councilor Paulson.
Thank you. I do want to just reiterate that we had asked, when we were going through our budget worksheets, the skating, I believe the revenue is over 60,000 and the cost is 23,000 on the figure skating.
And then there's coaches in there too. So I will have to get you the full figure.
But it's not losing money.
Well, that's what I wanted to know.
Yeah, okay. The figure skating program itself is not losing money, but we're not going to operate the building in the black on youth hockey and figure skating, is what I'm saying. But the cost of us operating the figure skating program, we bring in more money than we spend out on the figure skating program.
Does the same hold true for the hockey program?
We don't spend money out on the hockey program.
That was the differentiation I was trying to make.
Okay.
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate it very much. Is there a motion out there somewhere? What is it? Read it back, please.
Moved by Counselor Paulson, supported by Counselor Motley, to approve the figure skating contract for the 2023-24 winter ice season.
Okay, thank you. Moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item I is adopt a resolution to hire figure skating coaches.
So moved.
Support.
Moved by Counselor Johnson and supported by Counselor Friedlieb. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. I will be recusing even though I do not have a family member on that list of names. I may have a family member on that in the future. So I will be recusing myself from this vote.
Thank you, Counselor Paulson. Has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 6 ayes and 1 recusal. Thank you. Item 9.1J, adopt a resolution to approve the requested purchases with the one-time public safety aid for the police department from the state of Minnesota, which is about $364,000. Both the fire chief and assistant fire chief and the police chief gave us a list of things that we need to purchase with this grant money for training purposes. So we have that list. We did discuss that at the committee of the whole meeting. So looking for a motion on the floor. Councilor Beyondich.
So moved.
Moved to approve by Councilor Beyondich. Is there support? By Councilor Motley. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. 9.1K, adopt the resolution to approve the requested purchases with the public safety aid for the fire department.
So moved.
Moved by Counselor Freely. Is there support?
Or
By Counselor Paulson, was it? Further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed. Motion carries. 9.1K, 9.1L, adopt the resolution for the lease with Metro Sales for the copier at the Iron Torrey Motors Event Center.
So moved.
Moved to approve by Counselor Johnson, supported by Counselor Barnzelli. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by, I'm sorry, further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. Item 9.1M, approve and allow the mayor to sign the letter regarding the CPI increase with People Services per the contract beginning January 1st of 2024.
So moved.
Move to approve by Counselor Johnson. Is there support?
Support.
By Counselor Motley. Is there further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. Item 9.1N, direct staff to send a letter to People's Service regarding the discussion of the contract as it relates to the escalator clause.
Moved.
Move to approve by Counselor Paulson, supported by Counselor Freely. Further discussion, just to let you know, a letter was sent by our legal team to do that. We have yet to hear back. There's in an email, excuse me, but we're yet to hear back. So motion to approve and support. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 9.10, direct staff to contact independent contractors with the recommendation, changes, and updates for the next council meeting. What's that? Oh, the independent television contract. Okay. Okay, move to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Counselor Johnson, supported by Counselor Counselor Motley. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor, I'm sorry, further discussion, Counselor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, so that doesn't make sense, does it? Update staff to contact the independent contractor with recommended changes and update for the next council meeting. Would that be a committee of the whole meeting?
No response yet.
He hasn't responded yet.
Okay, but won't it come to the committee of the whole, not the council meeting, right?
Yes.
So does that need to be changed in item O? Because it says council meeting. Does it matter?
Well, we directed that at the committee of the whole.
I just want to make sure we have time to have discussion on that.
Okay, sure,
That's all.
please. Yep,
Thank you,
sure.
Mayor.
Okay, thank you. We have to vote on that? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed. Motion carries. 9.1P, adopt the resolution to authorize approving the transfer of bond funds from the city's general fund to the city's investment account that was held with the 4M fund. Did you want any more explanation for that? We did discuss that at the committee of the whole meeting. Looking for a motion.
So moved. Support.
Okay, moved by Counselor Motley and supported by Counselor Johnson. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. Adopt a resolution, item 9.1Q, adopt a resolution to change council insurance premium split from a 90-10 plan to a 80-20 plan.
So moved.
Move to approve by Counselor Paulson. Is there support? Support. By Counselor Freely. Is there any further discussion? I have some, but I'll go to Counselor Johnson first. Counselor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. I won't be supporting this. I think that 80-20 is too low and believe that we should be putting our money where our mouth is and doing at least 50-50.
Okay, thank you. So in addition, Wisconsin, at your discussion, Counselor Johnson, about a 50-50, there was a question as to whether or not an individual council can do that, depending on the plan and what the plan requires or authorizes to, and we're doing some research to see if independently a council can do that. It has been moved and supported at this point in time to move from a 90-10 to 80-20. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Roll call, please, Pam.
Johnson?
No.
Baranzelli? Yes. Huffy?
Aye.
Motley,
Yes.
Friedlieb,
Aye.
Paulson,
Aye.
Beyondich.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-1. Thank you. Item 9.1R, allow staff to research to see if an individual counselor can pay more than the approved 80/20 if they choose to do so, and our staff is working on that right now to determine that. Moved by Counselor Friedlieb. Is there support? Support. By Counselor Johnson. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 9.1S, approve the agreement with Joy Global Service Mining for wastewater treatment discharge into the city system.
So moved.
Move to approve by Counselor Johnson. Is there support? Is there support? Support by Counselor Friedlieb. Is there any further discussion? I know we had Jim Rosvet here give a long explanation at the committee of the whole meeting about the discharge and how it has had no adverse effect. They track this system as far as any contaminants that go in there. So we were comfortable moving this forward to the council meeting for discussion. Further discussion, Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to support this, but I still have a couple questions regarding how much of their wastewater is coming in. I don't think that, according to Jim Rosford, they've never monitored the flow, and they're going to maybe start working on doing more lift station checks. But I would rather know how much they're putting in before I say yes, because I guess we don't really necessarily know how much over they're putting in. And if they're not paying any additional, that's kind of concerning. So I'd like to support it, but that's why I'm not going to. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. It has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Beyondich.
On that motion, would it be able to amend it to include that until we have that information?
I think when Jim Roswit provided the information for us that came in the whole meeting, it indicated they checked the I&I, the inflow and infiltration, and there was no adverse effect. And down at the wastewater treatment plant, there has been no excessive discharge coming in there. But he had indicated that he could maybe put a flow meter around there and do that. He indicated he was going to do so.
So would this be voted on before, it would be voted on before we have that information then?
That's the motion right now, yes. Is there a motion and approval? Motion and to approve and support. Is there any further discussion? Hearing it's Councilor Motley.
Would the person who made the motion be willing to amend it to include the information from the council?
Not at this time.
Do you make the motion? Would you be willing to?
It was made by Counselor Johnson.
Councilor Johnson made the motion. There could be a secondary motion made after this. It has been moved and supported to approve the agreement with Joy Global Service Mining for the wastewater treatment discharge into the city water system. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Roll call, please.
Caranzelli, Huffy,
Aye.
Motley,
Yes.
Friedlieb,
Aye.
Paulson,
No.
Beyondich,
No.
Johnson.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-2. We could have a motion or just direct staff to provide additional information regarding the discharge of wastewater treatment by Joy Global for our next committee of the whole meeting to get some numbers moving forward. And I think that Jim Roswit should be able to provide that to us.
I'll make that motion, and including like I think he was talking about the flow meter.
I.
Yep. Thank you.
I'm sorry, one moment,
Mayor, if I
Brian?
On page 118 of the packet, if you look down toward about the middle of the first page of the agreement, there's some flow measurement language that talks about flows being revisited or looked at the 1-year anniversary of the agreement. So there's some built-in language for the city.
And I don't think they had been revisited, and that's what the information that I had asked from So I don't know if that can be done, but that's kind of what I was looking for.
Sure. Pam?
Yes, thank you. So they were, after I contacted People Service, nothing had changed on the flows. Actually, they weren't even doing any additional, as per the contract. They hadn't done anything. So there's nothing additional that they're submitting through the system on those 3 items that they are to be, that they requested.
But have they been monitored for the,
Yes, People Service, that's who I talked to. They are the ones that monitor. And nothing has come through.
okay, I think I'd like to still have that information, though.
Well, we can certainly do that. You're making the motion, right, get some more information
City
for the
staff,
next
yeah.
committee, of the whole
Thank
meeting?
you.
Have
Yep.
staff to research that? Okay. You get that on the, okay, thank you. It's moved by Councilor Paulson. Is there support for that? Is there support for that?
Support.
Support by Councilor Motley. Further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Getting toward the end here. Thank you for your patience. 9.1T, adopt a resolution to eliminate the curbside recycling program beginning February 1st, 2024.
So moved.
Move to approve by Councilor Motley. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Councilor Paulson. Further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, item 11, department head reports. Is there any department head available in the audience that can make a report this evening? Counselor, nobody. The Park and Rec Director, Brian Silber. Brian?
Good evening. I haven't had the opportunity to speak enough this evening since Sherry invited me to attend, so this is your fault, Sherry, for inviting me to attend tonight.
We pummeled you with some questions tonight, so it's your turn to.
So I am super excited. I am stoked to announce the fact that the new year is right around the corner, and with the new year comes something new for Virginia. That would be the first ever Parks and Recreation Facility and Activity Guide is being published. It will be available online on the city's website. That's cityofvirginiamn.us. So for those of you out in YouTube land, make sure that you go there next week after the first of the year and download this PDF of this great facility guide and activity guide for all things recreation that are going on within the city. This will be a quarterly publication of our Parks and Rec Department to keep you in the know of what is going on in your park system. Thank you and have a great night.
Thank you, Brian. This is an opportunity for the director of the winter festivities at Alcott Park to meet with Brian and make sure that you if you have some information to be put in this brochure. It's already been approved by Park and Rec Commission. So Kathy Merkel is in the audience, and she's going to kind of chair the winter event on Alcott Park. So adopt the plot, and she's working on her plan. Any volunteers are welcome to contact any of us or to contact Pamela Bean or Kathy Merkel, and we like to sponsor that, and more information forthcoming. So thank you. Thank you, Brian. Any other department head reports? We'll move left to right. How about legal? We have any more to offer, Brian?
Nothing more tonight, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Pam, anything to announce? Sherry?
No, thank you.
Okay. Jenny?
No, Mayor, thank you. I don't think I can top that excitement.
Yeah, thank you. All right. I'll move to item 12, council reports. Does any city council have a report they'd like to give this evening? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to item, well, I just have one quick announcement. The Fish Note Golf Group, which has been active. They're a group of golfers who hold an annual tournament up at Giants Ridge. Usually they play 3 or 4 days and have some practice rounds, and they all get together, a group of people, and they go over there and play golf, and they raise a lot of money. And so they take the money that they raise and they spread it over of what they consider to be really valuable investments into a community. In the last 2 years, the Fishnode Golf Tournament has donated money to the Friends of Public Safety. Okay, so this year is no different. They're going to be having some photo op and an opportunity for the Friends of Public Safety to have a check that's going to be presented to them, right around $3,200 to be put in their account to help with any public safety issues that they have, advertising and things of that nature. So Jan Mikowski is in the crowd. She's part of the Friends of Public Safety. She's going to be going over to the president, and they're going to make some arrangements to make sure that that check is properly presented to the for your purpose at Friends of Public Safety. So thank you for that. Okay, anything else anybody has that they'd like to come before the council meeting this evening? Last opportunity. Seeing none, we will stand adjourned to our next council meeting, which is scheduled for Tuesday, January 9th, 2024, in the council chambers at 5:30. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for all your hard work. It's been a long night. Have a good evening. Good night. We stand adjourned.